Hello, violin guru Becky Christopherson here. We're getting to know each other pretty well at this point, I hope. And I do hope that we have checked in with each other and you've scheduled your free Skype lesson by now. So I just want to review a little bit at the beginning of this video. Your bow hold is going to be nice and relaxed with a curved pinky and a thumb bump that goes up against the stick, making a circle with the third finger. That's your circle of power there for your tone. And make sure that your first finger is always traveling light. Don't ever press or push with it or pop up your elbow to let you push into it. That's just going to create scratchy sound and forceful sound. So your thumb is strong against the stick and your pinky is strong balancing the weight of the bow. And then the other fingers are along for the ride. Your elbow is slightly lower than your hand. And you want to make it heavy. Have a feeling of dead weight inside your elbow. And then for the violin, we want to find that sweet spot on top of the shoulder. We want to add the thumb without holding. And we want to be able to bring the hand around and in front without collapsing the wrist. And as we go from string to string, we want to bring our elbow with us and our wrist so that our fingers are supported. Go ahead and take a few minutes and just practice string crossings from E over to G and warm up a bit. For playing, we want to make sure that our bow is halfway between the fingerboard and the bridge. And for small bows, halfway between the tip and the frog. And the easiest way to control is small bows. So it's a good idea to warm up with short, small bows. Perhaps that A scale with our beginning rhythm like this. Remember, when you go from A to E, your elbow leads. When you go from E to A, your hand leads. So now we can tip over to the D with our hand, with our elbow following. And we're going to use the same finger patterns on the D and the A strings to play the D major scale. So we're going to have space between 1 and 2 for the whole step, and 2 and 3 are going to be touching for the half step. So the D scale starts on D, 1 on D is E, high 2 on D is F sharp, 3 on D is G, open A, B, C sharp, and D. Now that we've gotten to our next D, we're just going to go back down. Swing the elbow, take the hand. Good job. You may remember that when we had the A major scale in the last video, we were talking about 3 sharps. F sharp, C sharp, and G sharp. And you may notice that now that we're doing the D scale, we only have 2 sharps, F sharp and C sharp. And when we go to the reading and music theory video next, we'll talk a little bit about why. So after you've played your scales, I would recommend that you play a twinkle or 2 or more. Twinkle theme is particularly useful at this point because we're starting to use longer, more legato bows. So when we first played it, we were using a slightly detached bow. But now that we've learned to use longer bows and more connected bows, try Twinkle Theme again using that new technique like this. Notice that I'm using the same amount of bow, whether I'm playing a fast quarter note or a longer half note. So on the quarter notes, I'm moving my bow faster to travel faster, and on the half notes, I'm moving my bow more slowly so that I don't use too much bow too quickly. At this point, we can also play lightly row, the same way with longer legato bows. Preparing the C sharp. Ready, go. Slow bow. Slow bow. Slow bow. Slow bow. Slow bow. So we have the same challenge in that piece, that the quarter notes and the half notes are going to use the same amount of bow. So you have a faster bow for the quarter note and a slower bow for the half note. So that's a lot of bow control, trying to play that way. So you're going to want to constantly be monitoring your bow hold, monitor your arm weight. If your bow is bouncing a little bit, that's okay. You might have noticed my bow is bouncing a little bit. And mostly just try to stay as relaxed as you can. And if you have questions, feel free to send me an email or a quick video of your playing, and I'll be happy to respond and give you some advice. Or you can schedule another Skype lesson, whatever you prefer. So Song of the Wind continues with our staccato detached sound, and Go Tell Aunt Rhody, O Come Little Children, May Song, and Long Long Ago all have the longer, more connected bows. In Allegro, our next piece, we now encounter fast bows that are staccato. So it's kind of a combination of everything that we've talked about so far. So we start with high A on the E string, third finger, and we have 4 quarter notes, 2 on 3 and 2 on open E, like this. But Allegro means fast and happy. So my quarter notes are quite fast, and so is my bow. So I've got to work a little harder to keep it on the road so that my down bow doesn't go sideways. Right? Now I have small staccato bows, big bows. And then part 2 is legato, and then part 1 happens again with the long staccato fast bows. So that's a lot to practice. I would just practice those first 4 notes until you feel that you can control the bow before going on to play Allegro. If you're not learning the Suzuki songs with me, then that is your exercise. Alternatively, you can take the A scale and and practice that bowing, and of course the D scale. Always in pairs, so you practice the down bow and the up bow together. Make sure that your up bow is just as long as your down bow. It's quite common to be able to do a nice down bow because we have a feeling of openness and freedom going away from our body. And it is quite common to be more conservative on the up bow because we're closing in. You may feel like you're running out of bow, and so you're going to be more cautious. But the up bow should match the down bow both in speed and length. So that's a pretty big project right there. Our next song, Perpetual Motion, is staccato all the way through. And its teaching points will be covered more thoroughly in our note reading and music theory video. But suffice it to say that part 1 is essentially up the scale and ends on open E, and then is repeated, ending on open A. Part 2 is high A down the scale with the same pattern, the first time ending on open E, the second time ending on open A. Part 3 is quite different, and if you're not doing the Suzuki books with me, I would still recommend that you practice part 3. It's a little bit of a finger twister. It starts with C sharp on the A string, skip to A, back to B, D, skip to B, back to C sharp, E, C sharp up the scale, so again it starts on C sharp with a skip, D with a skip, E with a skip and a scale. So just make an exercise out of that and do that 5 to 10 times a day, both for the staccato practice and for the finger twister aspect of it. Then there is a variation to perpetual motion called doubles, where you're simply playing 2 notes on each given note. So they're becoming 16th notes instead of 8th notes, which we will talk about in the next video. So it's not written out for you in the book, it's just started, and it sounds like this. You can play that first E with either open or 4. So you're simply playing a down bow and an up bow on each note. So if you played a note once in the theme, you'll play it twice in the variation. If you played a note 2 times in the theme, you'll play it 4 times in the variation. And I treat perpetual motion simply as an etude. It's really what it's meant to be. It's great for technical development. So if there's one song that you do, it should be perpetual motion for the practice for the staccato as well as the variation doubles. And again, we'll talk more about the teaching points of perpetual motion in the next video when we're talking about the music theory and the note reading of it. So that concludes this video. This is halfway through the Suzuki book, and this is a good time to really take stock of what you've learned and where your ability levels are on all of the teaching points that we've talked about so far, and whether or not you're understanding the A major scale, the D major scale, note reading in general. If you're using the I Can Read book, I hope that you are around lesson 20 by now. If you're using Dolfline, you should be well into it as well, at least 10 to 15 pages. And so you want to make sure that all of your skills are developing along the way. Your bow hold, your left hand technique, your ability to read music, your stamina to be able to practice for 20 to 30 minutes a day minimally without getting too tired, to be able to focus, and then you'll be ready to go on. Review is super important. As you've seen, we already went back and did 2 of our songs with new technique that we've learned since, and that's a pattern that we will continue. So the more you're playing these old songs, the faster you will develop ability. The more you're doing your repetitions on the old technical exercises, the faster you'll develop your ability. Don't just do the current new work. So I will see you in the next video where we talk about the music theory and the reading for Allegro and Perpetual motion. And the second half of Book 1 is covered in the next unit. So I hope you'll buy the next unit and I'll see you there. Happy practicing!